Welcome to Sid and Malcolm, brought to you exclusively on malcolmpresents.com. Welcome, Sid.
Welcome, Malcolm.
Mm.
Thank you for having Rock and Wrap It Up this week.
Well,
It's an
well,
exciting, it's an exciting week for Rock and Wrap It Up.
tell me about it.
Well, we received a paper written by the EPA called Food Waste Research, and Rock and Wrap It Up is mentioned in here because part of the work that they're doing is trying to stop food waste. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it so that our viewers could understand how large a issue this is and why the EPA has to get involved in this, as has the US Department of Agriculture. 1/3 of all food that is manufactured is never eaten. It's wasted. So when you consider what that means, it is voluminous. It comes down to the food. What was used to grow the food? Fertilizer, water, man and woman hours, gasoline to transport the food, all of the packaging that went to making that food packaged, and all that, 1/3 of all food that is made in this country is never eaten. Now, Rock and Wrap It Up in 2015 was asked to join by the EPA and the USDA what was called the Food Recovery Challenge. And in 2016, 17, 18, and now I just read online 19, we are receiving awards for our work in fighting food waste. And one of the main things that we use to fight food waste is the Whole Earth Calculator, which is on our website. It resides there, which is a set of algorithms that enable people to put in how many pounds of food they're donating, and they could see how much greenhouse gas is being diverted, how much water is being saved by the food being donated and not thrown out, and finally, how many meals does that equal? This calculator is also enabling hotels to measure how much plastic is saved when they donate shampoos and conditioners in little bottles to shelters. It measures how much paper is saved when they donate half toilet paper rolls, as well as paper towels that are on the counter of hotel rooms. And all that has huge environmental and economical value. And the Whole Earth Calculator enables you to give a number that can be used for a lot of reasons. A lot of our ballparks have learned to save food. Sadly, we don't get that food, but we show them how much food they are giving to us at the end of a season. And it's a lot. And they're now finding ways of saving that food from being given to us, but they are able to reduce their operating costs and they're able to save money because we've shown them where the waste is. And the Environmental Protection Agency has recognized our value to this industry, the entire entertainment industry, because they're able to use very, very factual and tactical numbers that they could go back to the people and say, this is what we wasted last year. How could we reduce that? It'll never stop completely the donation of food to us. That will always be.
Why is there so much waste? I mean, that's a huge number.
Well, there's a lot of waste because most people don't use all the food that they buy in stores. So you have items in your refrigerator that you've started a leftover and you wind up not eating.
Not in my refrigerator.
Well, I will tell you, one of the larger wasters is the United States government. they have very strict guidelines as to what items they will buy from farmers. So if you have a product that may have a blemish on it, is not up to the standard of the US Department of Agriculture, they will not buy it. And therefore, it can be thrown away or used for animal feed, which they do in many instances. But so much food is not accepted by the US Department of Agriculture when they purchase from farmers. And this is already a known fact, and they're trying over the past 30 years that they recognize this to change those guidelines, but they're very difficult to change. And again, it has to do with the condition of the food, where you and I would probably have no problem eating it. We may not be there to buy it. And the buyers are the ones that have to decide, is this something that the public will purchase?
Mm-hmm.
And that is how much, and that's why there is so much waste. One of the reasons.
What I'm worried about from the articles that I'm reading now and what's happening in our country, not necessarily the waste, but the fact that a lot of farmers are not planting the crops as they normally would because they have a lower an allotment of water. So a lot of the fields are just going unplanted.
Well, that may be a newer phenomenon because there has been water issues, especially on the West Coast. It's not at all a problem east of the Rocky Mountains. The rest of this country has more than enough rainfall. It is very regional, and it happens in time frames. So you have a time, it could last 2, 3, 5 years, that you'll have an anomaly in your air patterns. And then it changes. And then you'll have an awful lot of water, and the East Coast does not get water. This has nothing to do with climate change. This has to do with our planet and how it's always been.
Well, according to the things that I read, it has everything to do with climate change.
I completely disagree with that. That's a political issue that they're making. The reality is that our planet works in cycles. There have been ice ages. There have been 5 of them where the entire planet changed, and there was very, very little sunlight, and glaciers moved down to as low as North Carolina. And then the ice age ended because that period changed. And again, there was a normalization, or what you'd consider normal, and weather came back again. And I believe that, yes, there is some climate issues, but we might be looking completely at a climate change due to natural progression of our planet.
So you don't think the carbon footprint has anything to do with it?
Absolutely not. I don't.
Wow.
And I will tell you what I believe. Where they really could make a difference is changing the feed of cattle. 70% of all greenhouse gas comes from the flatulence of animals. And that's something that could be dealt with without going to fossil fuels. Right now, one of the bigger issues, and this is sad, I'm a geologist by training. In Nevada, a US federal judge allowed a company to mine lithium in an open pit. Environmentalists, right, and this was this week, are going nuts because they know that open pit mining destroys our planet. But because lithium is used to make car batteries, they don't want to stop making car batteries, and they're willing to overlook. This judge did not allow the environmentalists in, I think it was in Nevada, to go on with their case against the lithium companies. So if you're willing to make this kind of adjustment, what else are you going to be doing? I am completely against the open pit mining. It destroys our land. God made our planet, and we have a finite amount of land on it. And you can't do this kind of work. Where can energy come from that I'm very comfortable with? two sources that are being used, but not in this country. Geothermal use to make electricity is an endless supply of energy. And it is being done now in New Mexico. The majority of power in the city of Denver comes from geothermal heating of water, which makes steam, which runs turbines, are in New Mexico. And so many on the West Coast, so many states are near an orogeny that is close, that has a molten magma close to the surface, that they themselves could do geothermal energy production. Not being done.
Yeah, geothermal meaning what?
Geothermal means that you dig down a mile, you hit magma, which is under the surface in very young orogenies, which the West Coast is. You then boil water by the geothermal, which is at 2,000 degrees. Naturally occurring 2,000 degrees magma. You've seen it come out of volcanoes.
That's what I was going to ask. Is that same as like lava?
Same thing. And it's being harnessed in New Mexico. And unfortunately, our country did not go in that direction. So they are going into areas that are at best fragile. Solar, wind, tides. These are fragile ways of making energy, because if there is no sun, if there is no wind, you have to depend on what you've already captured. With geothermal, there is absolutely no stopping, because it's not dependent on surface topography. The other thing that we have stopped doing is nuclear. Do you know that China is building a new nuclear reactor every 57 days? Because they know what we don't want to address. They know that they can't do solar, they can't do wind, because they have to produce too much energy. We, on the other hand, have been trapped by environmentalists of the 1960s and 70s. And our thought is based on what they were thinking then, which is not necessarily great for our future. We should go back to nuclear. We have an unlimited supply of uranium and other radioactive material used to make energy. And we should be going to geothermal, not just in New Mexico, but the entire West Coast. Yeah, and we won't have to be dependent on any other energy source.
Yeah, what frightens me with nuclear, and I have no really knowledge of it, but the nuclear accidents that happen every, so often, and especially on the West Coast.
Not so often. Not so often. You can count them on the fingers of one hand, the accidents that have been that disruptive. There are thousands of nuclear plants. There have been 5 accidents. Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, in Tokyo, not Tokyo, but in northern Japan. And there are 2 more in smaller places. That's it.
But the devastation they've created.
You are influenced by a media that has turned its back on nuclear. So you will never see a positive story. Why is China right now going away from solar and wind?
Because China can do anything China wants to do.
No, because they understand that nuclear has advantages that nothing else has.
But you think there are enough safeguards right now for nuclear energy?
Absolutely. Hold on one second. I got it.
That's China calling you up.
Oh, I got. Hold on one second. Ben, I'll call you back. Okay. Okay. Thanks, bud. Sure. Yeah, we have a big festival in Connecticut next month, Farm Aid. So I'm looking to pick all the food up from Farm Aid, as we've done in other places that it's
Uh-huh.
been. But I am not a proponent. Now, I don't love fossil fuels for another reason. They're finite. Once they're gone, they're gone. I am a proponent of using what is already here. And geothermal can be used in 90% of our country at this point in time. And it is not being looked upon. And I will tell you this, that if things don't change by 2025, there will not be enough car batteries to handle the demand for electric cars that are going on right now. And there won't be enough energy to energize those batteries. So what do we do then?
Bicycles. We use our bicycles.
No, we won't. But you know, these are things that those of us that are in this field have been talking about for years. But again, you can't get past the academia on colleges that don't understand the big picture. They understand where they believe they have influence. Let's do solar. Let's do wind. Okay, let's do them. And look what happens. You had rolling blackouts all over Los Angeles in the last couple of years because there wasn't enough energy. Why was that? Because they didn't think ahead. You can't do things that you're dependent on that kind of strategy.
Mm.
I know it sounds, you know, and this is not conservative, it's not liberal, it's not anything. It's how our planet is.
It's scientific.
You know, once you understand, can there be ancillary solar? Absolutely. Can it be depended on? No, it can't. You can't run your house on solar. Just can't be done.
But I don't know, when you listen to the scientists or when I read what they're saying, I don't find that many people who agree with you.
I know that. That doesn't. I never thought that ever was a criteria for me. You know, I know what I know.
Have you ever published a paper on that or a treatise?
No. But I read enough of what the potential is, and that's the problem. People talk about potential. That's not good enough to run a planet. Potential means that you have some wish that you're putting in and you believe in a potential. I don't believe in potential. I believe in rock. I believe in geology because that's what our planet is. And I believe in, there's a very interesting theory. It's called Hutton's theory of uniformitarianism. It was made up about 300 years ago by an English geologist. And what Hutton basically said, if you see a canyon that's been dug out by water, you have to assume that that water has been running in that canyon for millions of years. What's an example of that? The Grand Canyon, Colorado River, 800 feet high. A couple of things have happened. The mountains that fed the river, that gave it the power to run the 150 miles that it runs, is still in place because the rock bed is still being cut. So when you see a wind-borne opening at the beach, you have to assume that wind's been blowing a long time, not just from today. So Hutton's theory of uniformitarianism says that if you see actions going on today, you're going to make an assumption that it's been doing that for thousands, millions of years. Our planet is always in flux. One of the things that is a problem that we have not come to terms with is what happens if we have a change in our north-south direction. Our planet has had 2 or 3 different changes where the north and south poles reversed. And they have found this in iron ore that is magnetized, and they could go back millions of years to rock layers and see that the North and South poles have reversed. Now that could cause enormous issues. We're not studying that at this point because it hasn't happened. But how many people studied virology 2 years ago and ever thought that a virus could take down our planet like it has?
Well, I didn't study that, but I thought it could, especially now that they, what they're saying is, one of the theories is that China is creating, it's not a natural virus, they're creating its own super virus.
Well, I agree with that because that's already been out, where France has come out with it, that researchers in France have said that the US funded most of the lab work during the Obama administration and probably during the Bush administration. I'm not going to name a president, but probably for the last 10, 15 years, there has been a good relationship between China and between the US. And that has not, that's been a problem. But I go back to 1918. I read the virus of the influenza of 1918. It came out about 15 years ago. I sent it to my daughter about 10 years ago. And that talked about a virus, which they named the Spanish flu, which had nothing to do with Spain. And the virus, unlike this one, attacked vibrant immune systems. So people over 40 did not get this virus. People over the age of 3 got this virus, and it killed tens of millions worldwide of the youngest people. You could have gotten this virus in a training camp for World War I in Compton, New York, and a day later you'd be dead because the virus caused an incredible outpouring of white blood cells, which basically drowned you because you didn't have enough platelets to take red blood cells to take oxygen into your body. And that's how it killed you.
What eventually stopped that?
Nature. That was it. Virus died off, as this one will. If we did nothing with this virus, the virus will be gone in 2 years, just like any other virus. And who's to say that the variations that we're seeing have not been caused by, first, mutation, second, people's bodies fighting the virus with antibodies, so the virus morphs in individuals. That's what viruses do. They change within the human body.
Well, viruses
in the human body and the vaccines that cause the variations. No one knows that.
Yeah, well, viruses are like, they're like roaches. They keep on mutating, and they
absolutely.
They're looking for survival.
Yeah,
they're looking to live.
And that's what killed by 1920, the virus was gone.
Now, what do you attribute now the changing the climate? The climate is definitely changing. The question is, why is it changing? I mean, right now we have the
there are factors. Okay, so there are factors like sunspots that send out all the time. We're bombarded by rays of radiation of different wavelengths. Radiations are all on a certain wavelength. You have changes in your atmosphere that occur because of changes in radiation. All of us, if I could do one thing to protect mankind from cancer, you know what I would do?
What?
I would make every country paint every roof with lead. Lead stops radiation from coming in from the sun.
But
radiation is what affects your DNA, and it causes mutations in your body that cause cancer. So if we could, when we're indoors, if we could have lead on our roofs, quite a lot of radiation would not be hitting you through all of our surfaces.
Oh, so are we being hit with radiation even when we're
Every day,
indoors?
every minute, inside, outside. Yes.
Now, is that only, let's say I lived in an apartment house and I'm, on
Same
the
thing.
ground floor, it would
Doesn't-
go through?
It doesn't go through lead.
Doesn't go through lead.
So if you want to stop cancer in a small percentage, paint every roof.
But
Lead.
isn't lead dangerous to, aren't they doing away with lead in paint?
Why? Why are they doing that?
I don't know, tell me.
People eat, kids that are in ghettos have paint coming off the walls in bad housing, and the kids eat paint chips.
So is that the only reason?
Yes.
Interesting.
These are simple things that we try to show people, but again, lead is considered an anathema now. But again, when people don't know science and have a political agenda, they will write things as they see it.
So
So lead now is bad.
what do we do now to prevent what's happening? Again, this global warming, is there any, aside from the cows, is there anything that we could do to prevent global warming?
Well, if you were to take, I would say no. At this point, cows are 70%. If you don't, you could have, and by the way, the US is 10 years ahead of every other country in its environmental greening, just to let you know. My biggest problem with what happened when Biden put us back into the Paris Accord is that China, India, and Russia refused to sign the accords, and they are the largest producers of greenhouse gas.
Mhm.
The three of them together, more than any other country, all the people in the Paris Accord together do not equal what India, China, and Russia are doing to add greenhouse gas to our planet.
And what are they doing?
They are doing nothing what we're doing. We are of a belief that by cutting back in fossil fuels, that'll somehow help our planet. It won't. Not if the other three are not doing that.
Well, let's say the other three are doing it. Let's say everybody is getting together to.
It'll never happen for economic reasons. The US has already, shown that it could use electricity to power cars, and therefore they're going to go to electric vehicles. The reality is, what did Russia just do with Germany? Did you read that? And the US just agreed to it.
The pipeline?
The pipeline. So by putting a pipeline from Russia to Germany, Russia is a huge fuel manufacturer. The North Sea has a lot of oil. All that is going to be going to Europe. Who is not going to be selling oil?
That reminds me of
The United States.
Did you ever see a movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still with Michael Rene?
Yeah.
That reminds me of what we're doing with ourselves. That one day, we're going to get alien land on us and say, if you don't stop screwing around and doing what you're doing to the world, we're going to have to destroy you because now that you can come to outer space, you present a problem to the rest of the universe.
I don't see that as much. But again, we stop our own pipeline, yet we allow other countries. So we will become dependent to Saudi Arabia and other oil producers in South America.
Well, we are dependent.
We were not dependent on at all. We were our own oil manufacturer.
Well, the pipeline that we stopped was from Canada, right? Where did that go?
But it was producing to the United States.
For us to use? Because there was some sort of controversy on that.
No, the only controversy was that they stopped it. That was to supply us in a partnership with Canada.
So in your estimation, there's really no way to change what's happening now.
At this point,
At
no.
this point,
Russia, China, and India will continue to build nuclear reactors, which can produce energy much cheaper than oil. So they will already be able to make products less expensive than us, and they'll flood them in America, and we will be buying, because people buy the cheapest, if it's exactly the same made. They will be enabled to bury us economically because they will not have the expenses that we are incurring.
Could we run cars on nuclear energy?
No. But we could run cars with electricity that's made with nuclear energy. So if we were to go that route, that would make a lot of sense.
Okay. So one last question, because as you heard, the time ran out.
Oh.
Believe it or not, if Russia or the other countries would agree to cut back on the carbon emissions, can we save our planet if all the major countries cut back and we wouldn't have the carbon footprint?
I don't see our planet needing to be saved. I think that's where you and I differ. I look at this as cyclical changes that are going on.
I know. So the cyclical changes is like the dinosaurs are extinct. So do you think that eventually
No.
become extinct?
Dinosaurs became extinct because of one cataclysmic event that happened 65 million years ago. And that was a meteor of immense size hit our planet, caused dust to circle our planet for years and stop plant growth, which the dinosaurs needed, and that's what killed the dinosaurs.
Is there anything to prevent a meteor from hitting the Earth now?
No, absolutely not.
Any different? So in other words,
It could happen again.
our hand is in the well, if you believe in God, our hand is in the hands of God. Now, one final question: is God a God to all the planets?
I think so. I think that there is a central life force that you could call whatever you want. Did you see the movie Avatar? Well, you know, there is a life force that everything touches.
Interesting. What I'd like to see you, or of course, in your spare time, to make a paper on what you talk about. I'd love to, or you know, a treatise and submit it for scientific.
I've read enough on my own that I'm convinced of whatever I've done.
No, I know you're convinced. I'd like to see you.
I don't think I have to convince anybody else. If other people are going to believe, sadly, most people are not scientific, Malcolm, you know that. So they're going to listen to what they read in mass media. And that's what they believe. I don't believe that.
If they read mass media, they hear it on the tube. But anyway, it was a very interesting show. And I hope you know, we can get people to listen to it, more people. By the way, you are promoting the show with listing it in whatever publications you have and telling people about it.
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I think this is a very important show for people to listen to.
I would like to hear from other people and see where they what side of this they go on. And again, this has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with science.
Okay.
And our planet. That's it. Thank you.
Like that. I will speak to you next week.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.